Welcome back to my channel. Egypt's army will overtake Tel Aviv in one day. Egyptian lawmaker warns Israel after threat. We'll talk more about this, and I'll be sharing with you a video, some articles, and then we'll do some analysis to see when this lawmaker said that Egypt is ready. This lawmaker said Egypt is ready to overtake Tel Aviv in one day. Did he really mean that, or it was just an empty word? An Egyptian parliament member issues a stark warning to Israel, warning that Egyptian forces would reach Tel Aviv within a day if confronted. This is not the first time this kind of rhetoric is coming from Mustafa Bakri, a member of the People's Assembly of Egypt. He also said something very, very interesting, and that I will share with you in a second. But let's see what he's saying here concerning the Aswan High Dam in case of any clash between Tel Aviv and Cairo, saying that if Israel takes action, Egyptian will be in Tel Aviv the following day. According to the Russian state-run media RT Arabic, formerly known as Russia Al-Yawm, Bakri said that Israel has misunderstood the capabilities of the Egyptian army, referring to Israeli forces' difficulties in their fight against Hamas and other Palestinian fighters. If anyone threatens Egypt's security, Egyptians will respond decisively, the legislator warned, saying that Egypt will not wait for Israeli aircraft to take off from Tel Aviv and conduct any attack on the Aswan High Dam. Recently, we have also seen how Egypt is taking action against any kind of intervention of Israeli forces of Sinai Desert. An Israeli media outlet reported an upcoming conflict between the regime and Egypt. They should know that Egypt is always ready. Earlier, an Israeli website claimed that the regime could target the dam with missiles at the onset of an attack on Egypt. It also claimed that such missiles or other advanced weapons could destroy the dam and lead to catastrophic flooding, which would submerge Aswan and Luxor areas, potentially affecting military bases and industrial facilities along the Nile River. So let's talk about Mustafa al-Bakri's some other comments. In the past, he also said that I support Muslim Brotherhood. He actually called, not Muslim Brotherhood, he actually called Hamas as brothers. I hope, this is what he said, I hope that our brothers in Hamas do not help Trump in implementing the displacement plan. If the fire ignites again, it may push our brothers to search for a way to avoid death, and here the scenario of pushing the Palestinians towards displacement will begin. Do not give anyone an excuse. Enough with 160,000 murders and wounded. The entire situation is at stake. We are facing a plan targeting the entire region. So again, this is coming from Mustafa Bakri, the same lawmaker who actually said that Tel Aviv, Egyptian army or Egyptian forces can take over Tel Aviv in just one day. So we have to see this guy in light of someone who is making some bold statements, some strongly worded statements against the Zionist state of Israel. This is not the first time. He is probably the most vocal when it comes to Israeli genocide in Gaza. This guy, Mustafa Bakri, he raised his voice. He was actually screaming and shouting in the parliament when Israel started the genocide. He was talking against Israel and saying that we will not be silenced in the face of this genocide. So now you can imagine him saying the same thing against Israel, raising his voice, threatening them of any confrontation and telling them this will be the consequence. Obviously, this is coming also at a time when you have seen that Israel, they are now seeking to strike Egypt in some way. They will not do it, but nevertheless, you never trust the IDF forces. They can do because now they have Trump's backing, and they might even strike Egypt's Aswan High Dam, and that would be actually catastrophic. And Israel, they have actually said something about this particular dam, striking it, and they said if we do strike, then Egyptian military bases will be wiped out in that region. It will have heavy flooding, and the economy of Egypt will also be destroyed at the same time. And now we're seeing also how Egypt is gathering its forces in and around the Sinai Peninsula, and they have mobilized their tanks, their military forces, and they're conducting regular operations, military drills and exercises in the Sinai Desert. So Egypt right now, they are afraid that Israel could actually push the Palestinians out into Sinai, into Egypt, and that would definitely be a big problem for the Egyptian government. Take a listen at this from Norman Finkelstein, what he has to say.
The problem is that our Secretary of State Blinken and the U.S. administration in general, and Israel, have been applying huge pressure on Egypt to let the people go. into Egypt. And then he says, I'm not going to facilitate, I am not going to abet the ethnic cleansing of Gazans into Egypt. I don't want to be part of that. And then what do you say to that? Well, I looked around for what people were saying. I think the obvious answer is, don't force them to flee. There should be a ceasefire now, so they don't have to flee.
Let's end with that.
That's their home. And I want people to bear in mind, 70% are refugees from 1948, when Israel was created. They've lived since 1948 in refugee camps in Gaza. 70%. And now Israel wants to turn them into refugees twice over, to dispatch them into the Sinai desert to rot and die. Because of one thing you can be certain, President Sisi of Egypt, will never let them assimilate into Egyptian society. That's never going to happen. So now you want to take the refugees from 1948 who are living in the refugee camps in Gaza and make them refugees again. That's the U.S. plan.
Okay.
And now Israel is saying, because Egypt is now facing a huge economic crisis, and Israel is saying, we will get the IMF to release money to you, because right now, 1/2 of their revenues are being used to service the debt. We will give you money, and you let the refugees in there. Now I ask you, is that not hostage taking?
Okay.
Is that not hostage taking,
Professor?
to want to expel them
No, first of all,
second time,
where are you getting
expel them a second time now into the Sinai desert? Is that not hostage taking?
Well, it is obviously hostage taking. This is violation of laws. This is disregard to human life, their dignity, and their right to have a land. Therefore, right now, we have to, all of us, raise our voices and make this a big issue. What this lawmaker, Mustafa al-Bakri, said from Egypt about taking over Tel Aviv in just one day, to me, it looks like it is just a strong statement. It doesn't really have any substantial meaning to it, in the sense that Egyptian government will never ever try to fight or even start, or even I would go to the extent of saying they will not even defend themselves if Israel decides to attack certain part of Egyptian territories, because Egypt is a complete sellout. Sisi is now worried more about himself than about Egypt or the people of Palestine, even though that's what he wants us to believe, that he's working for the people of Palestine, he's working for the people of Egypt. But at the end of the day, this guy only cares about his own position. And this guy, Mustafa Bakri, hopefully, whatever he's saying, he means it. But with Egypt, it's very hard to trust anybody, especially from the government. One thing stands for sure, which is that this is not panning out well for Egypt. This is not going to be a good scenario, a beautiful future for the people of Israel or for the people of Egypt, because it is becoming uglier every single day.